Hello there, I said. My name is Jessica. I'm 27 years old and just back from my wedding to Justin. He's 7 years older than me, but let's rewind and start from the beginning. Let me paint a picture of the day Justin and I first met. It was at one of those fancy garden parties our parents love to host. I was 18, fresh out of high school, and Justin was 25, the new rising star at his father's company. I remember him walking up to me with a glass of champagne. "Jessica, right?" he asked, his voice smooth as silk. "I've heard a lot about you." I could feel my cheeks flush as I fumbled for words. "And you're Justin," I managed to reply. "I've heard a lot about you, too." He laughed, and that laugh made my heart skip a beat. "Hopefully all good things," he said with a grin. We spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and surprisingly connecting on a level I hadn't anticipated. That night, seeing how well we got along, our parents started to imagine us getting married. It took a few more years, but eventually, their plan came to pass. Before our wedding, we signed a prenuptial agreement. It was a simple deal. If either of us cheated, the other could walk away with a cool $3 million. I had no intention of straying, so I signed without a second thought. I remember the day we signed that agreement. My dad, a man of few words, but with a heart as vast as the ocean, looked at me with concern in his eyes. "Are you sure you're okay with this, Jessica?" he asked, his voice steady but tinged with worry. "Dad, it's fine," I reassured him, giving him a quick hug. "I trust Justin, and he trusts me. It's just a formality." Justin was there too. He was the one who insisted on the prenup. "I don't want you to feel like you're being cornered, Jessica," he said, his voice a bit strained. "If you're not comfortable with this, we can talk more about it." I shook my head and smiled at him. "Justin, I'm fine with it. I trust you." He seemed relieved and returned my smile. "And I trust you, Jessica." That was the beginning of our journey. We got married in a grand ceremony that was the talk of the town. I was thrilled about this new chapter in my life, blissfully unaware of the storm that was brewing on the horizon. After the wedding, we moved into a beautiful house on the outskirts of the city. It was like a dream come true, living with Justin and waking up next to him every morning. He was sweet and caring, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. Our honeymoon was like something out of a fairy tale. We spent 2 weeks at a stunning beach resort, soaking up the sun and enjoying each other's company. But when we returned home, things started to change. Justin became a different person. He was distant, always lost in thought. He would come home late from work and go straight to bed without even saying goodnight. We began to sleep in separate rooms, eat at different times, and barely spoke to each other. One day, I decided to confront him. "Justin," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "what's going on? You've been acting strange ever since we got back from our honeymoon." He looked at me, his eyes lacking the warmth they once had. "I've just been busy with work, Jessica," he replied, not meeting my gaze. "But we barely talk anymore," I pressed, my voice growing more insistent. "We're living like strangers in our own home." He sighed and ran his fingers through his hair. "I know, Jessica. I'm sorry. I'll try to make more time for us." But things didn't improve. If anything, they got worse. Justin started coming home even later, sometimes not until the early hours of the morning. He stopped eating with me, and we hardly saw each other. I began to have suspicions. Was he seeing someone else? The thought made my stomach churn, but I couldn't ignore the signs. One night, when he came home late, I decided to confront him again. "Justin," I said, tears welling up in my eyes, "are you seeing someone else?" He looked shocked by my question. "No, Jessica. I would never do that to you." "But you're always out," I said, my voice breaking. "You never spend time with me." "I told you, it's just work," he said firmly. "I'm not cheating on you, Jessica." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Justin was not the man I had married. He was distant, cold, and seemed to be hiding something. I didn't know what to do. I loved Justin, but I couldn't keep living like this. I decided to dig for answers. If Justin wasn't going to tell me what was going on, I would find out for myself. I started by checking his phone when he was in the shower. I felt guilty for invading his privacy, but I was desperate for answers. I didn't find any suspicious messages or calls, but I did find something that made my heart sink. Justin had been searching for apartments. Was he planning on leaving me? I confronted him about it. Justin, why are you looking for apartments? Are you planning on leaving me? He looked shocked. No, Jessica. I was just looking. I wasn't planning on leaving you. But why were you looking? I asked, my voice trembling. I don't know, Jessica, he mumbled, barely whispering. I just need some space. One day, I decided to talk to my mom about it. She's always been my rock, my go-to person when things get tough. Mom, I said, I don't know what to do. Justin's changed. He's not the same person anymore. My mom listened, her face full of concern. Jessica, she said, you're both still adjusting. You're newlyweds. It takes time to build a life together. I wanted to believe her, to think that this was just a phase and that things would get better. But deep down, I knew there was more to it. Justin was hiding something. I could feel it. I tried to shake off the feeling and convince myself that Mom was right, but the nagging voice in the back of my mind kept reminding me that something was off. A few weeks later, I gathered my courage and approached Justin. I need a job, I said, looking him in the eye. He looked surprised. You want to work? He asked, raising an eyebrow. I nodded. Yes. I need to do something. I can't just sit at home all day. He thought for a moment, then said, I can offer you a job at my foundation. We help kids in tough situations. Would you be interested? I was taken aback. Justin's foundation was well known for its work with children, and I had always admired what they did. Yes, I said without hesitation. I'd love to. Working at the foundation was a breath of fresh air. I was busy and doing something meaningful. I met kids who were strong and resilient, kids who had faced more hardships than any child should. It was heartbreaking, but also inspiring. The job kept me busy and helped me focus on something other than the problems at home. Justin and I had our issues, but during the day, I had something else to concentrate on. The work was tough and emotionally draining, but it was worth it. For the first time in a long time, I felt happy. But even then, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Justin was acting strange and distant. I couldn't pinpoint what was off, but I knew something was wrong, and I was determined to find out what it was. With a whirlwind of questions and a heart heavy with betrayal, I decided to hire a private detective. I needed to know if Justin was cheating on me. It wasn't just about my pride, it was about my peace of mind. I couldn't live in the shadow of a doubt, constantly wondering what had gone wrong. And then there was the prenup we signed before we got married. If Justin was cheating, it wasn't just a betrayal, it was a costly mistake. I found a detective agency in the city run by a man named Joe. He was an ex-cop, a grizzled veteran with a keen eye and a no-nonsense attitude. I told him my story and my suspicions. He listened, his face impassive. I'll do my best, Jessica, he said when I finished, but I can't promise anything. If your husband is cheating, he's doing a good job of hiding it. I nodded, understanding. I just need to know, Joe. One way or another, I need to know. I remember the day Joe came to give me his report. His face was serious, his eyes sympathetic. I'm sorry, Jessica, he said. I couldn't find any evidence that your husband is cheating on you. I felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Part of me was glad that Justin wasn't cheating, but another part of me was frustrated. If he wasn't cheating, then why was he so distant? What was he hiding? Are you sure, Joe? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. There's nothing at all? Joe shook his head. I'm sorry, Jessica. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. I thanked Joe and paid him for his services. As I watched him leave, I felt a profound sense of loss. I was back where I started, with more questions than answers. I was working at the charity fund when he walked in. His name was Adam, the new guy. He was handsome, with a charming smile that could light up a room. Adam was smart, quick-witted, and had a sharp mind. He had a sense of humor that could make anyone laugh, and he looked like a famous actor with his chiseled features and striking good looks. In short, he was my ideal man. But even though I was drawn to Adam, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. His arrival seemed too perfect, too convenient. I kept thinking about Justin and the prenup. If I was caught cheating, I'd have to pay a hefty sum of $3 million. Could Adam be a trap set by Justin to catch me in the act? I decided to hire Joe, the private detective I had used to investigate Justin. I asked him to look into Adam and see if he had any connections to Justin. Joe agreed to take the case. He started investigating Adam, digging into his past and connections. He followed him, watched his movements and interactions, and was as thorough as ever, leaving no stone unturned. Meanwhile, I tried to keep my distance from Adam. It was difficult, especially since he was so charming and attractive, but I had to be careful. I couldn't afford to fall into a trap, not with so much at stake. One day, Adam asked me out for coffee. I was torn. Part of me wanted to say yes and get to know him better, but another part of me was scared, worried about what Joe might find. I'd love to, Adam, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but I'm really busy right now. Maybe some other time. Adam seemed disappointed, but he didn't push. Sure, Jessica, he said, his smile dimming slightly. Some other time. I felt a pang of guilt. What if I was wrong? What if Adam was just a nice guy, and I was letting my suspicions ruin a potentially good thing? But I couldn't take the risk, not until I knew for sure. A few days later, Joe came to give me his report. His face was serious, his eyes hard. I'm sorry, Jessica, he said, but your suspicions were right. Adam is working for your husband. I felt a rush of emotions, anger at Justin for trying to trap me, relief that I hadn't fallen for it, sadness that Adam wasn't who I thought he was, but above all, I felt vindicated. My suspicions were valid. Thank you, Joe, I said, my voice choked. You've done a great job. As I watched Joe leave, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had dodged a bullet and avoided a costly mistake. But I had also lost something. The image of the ideal man, the hope of finding love again, was a bitter pill to swallow. But I wasn't going to let this get me down. I was stronger than that. I was going to move on and find happiness again. I didn't need an ideal man, I just needed someone real and honest. And I was going to find that person, no matter what. I could have sent Adam packing right then and there, but I chose a different route. I decided to play along and befriend him, all the while making sure to keep my behavior above board, not giving Justin any reason to point fingers at me. Adam, however, took my friendliness as a sign of something more. He started to loosen up, thinking he had me charmed. The irony was that he was the one getting played. I couldn't risk him running back to Justin, so I kept up the act and maintained the friendly facade. One day, I decided to up the ante. I asked Adam to join me for lunch, framing it as a casual discussion about charity work. He agreed, a smug smile plastered on his face, thinking he was making progress. We found a quiet spot in the cafe. So, Adam, I began, how are you finding the charity work? He shrugged, a confident look in his eyes. It's good. Different, but good. And Justin? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. What do you think of him? Adam looked surprised. Justin? He's okay, I guess. Why? I shrugged, attempting to look casual. Just curious. He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? Adam laughed, clearly relieved. Yeah, he can be a hard one to read. We continued chatting about work and life. I made sure to keep my tone neutral, not giving him any reason to be suspicious. In the days that followed, I kept up the friendly act, always on my guard, never crossing the line. It was a risky game, but I was willing to play it for now. One day, during one of our lunch meetings, Adam looked at me with a serious expression on his face. You know, he began. I raised an eyebrow, feeling a chill run down my spine. About what? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He shrugged, looking uncomfortable. About us, about this thing we have. My heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment I had been dreading. I forced a smile and asked, what is it that we have, Adam? He looked at me with hopeful eyes. I think we have something special. A pang of guilt hit me. Adam was falling into my trap, just as I had planned, but it didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. Still, I had to keep up the act and play the game. So I smiled at Adam, my smile as fake as a $3 bill. Yes, Adam, I said, my voice barely a whisper. We do have something special. Just like that, I had set the trap. The game was on, but at what cost? The Cold War at home with Justin remained as icy as ever. We would occasionally run into each other, exchange chilly greetings, and then retreat to our separate corners. Most nights, Justin would be at his apartment, claiming it was more convenient for his work commute. One Sunday afternoon, I dialed Adam's number, lacing my voice with warmth as fake as his documents, inviting him over to my place. He probably thought I was finally ready to give in to his advances. Poor guy, he couldn't have been more wrong. When Adam stepped into my home, he was greeted not by a seductive housewife, but by my old classmate, now a stern-faced police officer. He had agreed to help me out, and the surprise on Adam's face was worth every bit of it. The officer checked Adam's papers, and as expected, they were as fake as a $3 bill. Now it was time for my move. I offered Adam a choice. He could either stick with Justin and face the consequences of his fake documents, or he could switch sides and work for me. Adam's eyes darted between me and the officer. After a moment of silence, he nodded. He agreed to my deal. Checkmate, Justin. With that, the real game began. I had Justin's pawn now playing for my side, but I knew this was just the beginning. Justin was a crafty man and wouldn't go down without a fight. In the days that followed, I kept a close watch on Adam. Despite his agreement, I knew I couldn't fully trust him. He was a wild card, a potential threat, but for now, he was a useful one. One day, I summoned Adam to my office. "We need to talk," I said, my tone serious. He looked at me with a hint of unease in his eyes. "About what?" he asked. "About Justin," I replied. "I need to know everything, his plans, his strategies, everything." Adam hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, I'll tell you everything I know." Just like that, I had my insider. My counterattack was ready, but this was just the beginning. The real battle was still ahead of us. Justin wouldn't go down without a fight, and I had to be prepared. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was war, and in war, there are no rules, only survival. Days turned into weeks, and I was getting antsy. I wanted to confront Justin, to show him I wasn't the pushover he thought I was. Joe, whom I turned to once again, had given me some advice. "Push Justin. Make him think you've fallen into his trap," he suggested. It was a gamble, but I was ready to play the game. So, Adam and I staged a photo shoot. We posed in ways that could be seen as compromising, as proof of an affair, but we were careful. We kept the originals, where everything was as innocent as a Sunday school picnic. Once the photos were ready, I handed them to Adam. "Give these to Justin," I said, handing over the envelope. "Let him draw his conclusions." Adam looked at me, concern etched on his face. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Once you start this, there's no going back." "I know," I replied, a steely resolve in my voice. "And I'm ready." The very next day, Justin was all smiles at dinner. He thought he had caught me, that he had gotten one over on me, but he didn't say a word about it. I wasn't worried. I knew what was coming, and I was ready. Meanwhile, Joe was on the case, digging up dirt on Justin and finding all the evidence we needed. He was good at his job, and I trusted him. Finally, Joe called with the news. His voice was rough with satisfaction. "I've got him," he said. "I've got all the proof of Justin's cheating. Photos, videos, the whole shebang." A rush of excitement hit me. "Good," I replied, a smile spreading across my face. "Let's bring him down." But I didn't confront Justin. Not yet. I wanted him to think he was winning. I wanted to see the look on his face when he realized he'd been played. So I waited, playing the part of the beautiful wife, waiting for Justin to make his move. I knew what was coming, and I was ready. The clock was ticking toward the family dinner, and I knew this was it, the showdown. I felt a strange calmness as I prepared for the dinner at Justin's parents' mansion, a sprawling estate of old money. Justin was there, of course, playing the doting son and husband, but I knew the truth, and soon everyone else would too. We were halfway through the main course when Justin cleared his throat. He stood up, a smug smile on his lips. I have something to say, he announced, his eyes fixed on me. He pulled out a set of photos of me with Adam, and tossed them on the table like he was playing a winning hand. Proof, he declared, his voice filled with triumph. Proof of my wife's infidelity. The room went silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, but I didn't flinch. I was ready for this. Calmly, I stood up and met Justin's gaze. Yes, I said, my voice steady. I know this man, but he's not my lover. He's an actor, hired by you, Justin, to frame me. I pulled out my phone and hit play. Adam's voice filled the room, confessing everything. Justin's smile faltered, and his eyes widened in shock. But I wasn't done. I pulled out my own set of photos and videos, evidence of Justin's affairs, and tossed them on the table. What about these, Justin? I asked, my voice cold. Can you explain them? Justin stammered and tried to deny it, but the evidence was undeniable. His parents' faces turned to stone. My parents, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. You ungrateful king brat, my father roared at Justin. We trusted you with our daughter, and this is how you repay us? Justin's mother was in tears. How could you, Justin? She sobbed. How could you do this to us, to her? The aftermath was swift. We divorced, and Justin's parents, furious at their son's deceit, fired him from their company. His reputation was in tatters. As for me, I walked away with $3 million in compensation. Now, Justin is jobless, scrambling to pick up the pieces of his life. And me? I'm free. I'm enjoying the peace, the silence. I'm enjoying my life without Justin. I won. I took on Justin and won. I outsmarted him and played his own game better than he did, and it felt good. It feels right.